This is your economic review. Millers have decried the government's move to stop maize imports from Uganda and Tanzania, saying that it will lead to the increase of maize flour in the country. Now, the grain processors are adamant that the government should have only banned maize with high levels of aflatoxin and allow the grain that meets the set standards to come into the country. On Friday, Kenya banned all imports of maize coming in from Uganda and Tanzania, citing high level of aflatoxins. Now, the country allows aflatoxin levels of up to 10 parts per billion. All right, just before we cross over this morning and introduce the lovely panel that we have for you, let's look at how the trend of imports into the country has been going over time to where we are right now. You can see all the way from 2017 up to where we are right now in terms of the quantity and value. It has been on the same level as well, all the way from 2017 to 2019, and looking at it from tonnage, it has been dropping, so meaning that once we have a lower import quantity, then the value as well goes up as well. All right, let's cross over to another data point that we have for you. Good, same trajectory as well, all the way from 2015 to 2019 as well, corresponding with the same data in terms of import quantity and value into the country as well. So now that is the conversation point really that we have for you this morning in terms of where the maize millers are coming from as well, which is going to be the same thing as well when we're only looking at the value of maize again in terms of tonnage and billions as well. That is where we stand in terms of that importation. Now, maize prices and unga prices have been quite a continuing conversation in our country in terms of how we manage the prices. This morning, let me introduce the panel that we have for you that is going to take us through the entire economic review. We have Vincent Kimosop, who's an economist, John Moneke, financial analyst, and Arnold Nkosale, who's a microfinance banker. Let me begin with you, Vincent. The cries from millers that, well, we've got it wrong. Did you believe that we've got it wrong, or this is necessary, going by the fact that, well, it might lead to the increase of flour prices in the country?
Good morning, and good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Great. You have to appreciate that millers are businessmen. It is about the bottom line, where they can be able to source cheaper maize that ensures that when they do the milling, eventually they are going to make a higher profit. So they will do all that it takes to paint the picture to be as dark as it is, so that their side of the story carries the day. As you know very well that public policy making is a contested public square. The person who carries the day could also be the person who makes the highest amount of noise. And the millers are all organized, they have the resources, but unfortunately their story is not a complete one.
Vincent, I'm sorry to cut you short there, but is it not a proven theory, though, that if you don't get it from Uganda and Tanzania, the cost of importation of maize into the country from any other place, might be a bit expensive, meaning that at the end of the day, they will have to increase the price of maize flour in the country?
Actually, the data shows that we can source cheaper imports of maize from other destinations like Zambia, Malawi, all the way to even Brazil.
Yes.
I think the reality of it is that, of course, based on proximity, the current realities that we are facing, like COVID-19, the logistics and the movement of trade within the region, the alternatives from Uganda and Tanzania helps them to meet their bottom line. Their costs are affordable. But we can source maize from other destinations, and we've done it in the past. You remember the yellow maize from Mexico?
Yes.
So the truth of the matter is that the data shows that we can get cheaper imports of maize from other destinations. I think what I want to reinforce in this situation is that the reality is that there is a problem as far as production of maize of this country is concerned. And that is why millers are looking for cheaper options. So the real question that we should be having is that what is it that makes the cost of producing maize in our country very expensive, that then makes the price of unga at the end of the day expensive? That also ensures that our farmers are not benefiting from the Kenyan market. We
Yes.
have supporting others. That's where the conversation should be. And for me, it is because inputs are high, taxation is high, the input costs and the taxes into it are very high. And then what do? We have an incoherence as far as policy is concerned. And it's very populist to come and say we have banned maize from Uganda and Tanzania to show farmers that, oh, we want the Kenyan farmers to have markets. But we are not dealing with the real issue, which is what makes the cost of producing maize in our country so uncompetitive that the government is not confronting.
Let me bring in Joanne this morning on this issue as well. Joanne, do you share the same sentiment with Victor this morning by saying, well, this is millers trying to make their story have the way as opposed to exactly what is on the ground?
Thank you again for inviting us this morning. Well, I agree with partly with Vincent in that, of course, millers are in business.
Yes.
But on the other hand, let's agree that we are still not able to produce enough maize to feed ourselves so far. So of course, the alternative to get the maize, and which we've been doing for a long time, is importing from Tanzania and Uganda, because of course they have bigger farms, they have the climate is better than ours, they're able to produce more maize than us. So true that the millers are in business, but on the other hand, when we look at importing maize from other places, let's look at bringing it in at cheaper prices that are affordable. Let's not ban, completely and castigate the maize from Uganda and Tanzania, because that's what we've been importing from there for a long time. So let's look at ways in which we can get safer maize here, so that our people can consume safe food. So for me, I wouldn't look at it in a block. Let's ban our importation from Uganda and Tanzania, and that's where we've been getting our maize from. Let's look at it because the millers also don't work in isolation. They work with SGS, they work with the East African Grain Council. There are all those people that work together. So let's see how we can be able to bring people together and then bring even safe maize, instead of just saying let's not import from there. There are other countries that we can get from. Yes, I agree, but let's look at the logistics of bringing the maize here at a cheaper price, and make sure that we're bringing safe maize to our country, because as it is, we are still not able to produce food enough for ourselves in this country for consumption.
Yes, Joanne, do you feel that this government's will to control the price of unga in the country, going by how now most people will say, well, it is expensive?
Well, of course, the government being, the biggest stakeholder in terms of maize, bringing maize in and storage and all that.
Yes.
I think there is some goodwill, but I think this maize is very political and it has a lot of stakeholders in it. So I think it's important to bring everybody on board, so to make sure that the prices are well controlled, and that we get products that are safe, because that has happened before. Remember when the government put up a price tag on the price of 2 kilos of maize? So that has happened before. So it can still be done even now, that the government can work with all stakeholders to make sure that the price of unga remains affordable for all.
Victor, just before we jump out of this issue, the government is right involved in the price controls within the economy now, and that leaves millers a little playing field when it comes to the business of unga within the economy. Should the government just be a regulator as opposed to a direct player in this business, if at all we are going to get solutions to issues like this, the price of unga in the economy?
I want to say that as an economist, increasingly I'm coming to doubt some of the things. The government should only do regulation. The government should not be in the market. But the truth of the matter is that the government has a significant role to play in this process,
Yes.
both as a regulator and also as a stabilizer. In my view, is that I am very happy with the challenge on the side of government is an efficiency issue and a policy that is not well followed through. For example, the government intervenes through the cereals. So you have the buffer stocks, as you've seen the silos, and that helps ensure that enough maize is able to be stored. So that even if you produce a lot, what happens? There will be no problem because there is proper storage. Now, what is it that we're complaining about? Aflatoxin. Now, remember, these are farmers who've worked very hard. They have aflatoxin is an issue related to storage. It's a post-harvest problem. So, and it's not the first time. For me, the point I'm trying to buttress is that the government has a responsibility in supporting farmers because these farmers are playing a national security responsibility.
Yes.
Let me tell you, food insecurity is worse than terrorism. And if a government cannot be able to feed its citizens, then what business will that government be having if you cannot feed your own people? So, in my view, our problem is that there is a lot of vested interest in the sector, and then there is a lot of tokenism. If we want to deal with this issue, because it's not the first time. If you're the way based on the ages of the people I can see in this, you remember in around 2013 when we had the issue of importation of maize from South Africa under the Grand Coalition government. So it is a political weapon that is conveniently used, particularly as we near an election, to show that some. I actually challenge Metropol TV to just take time and look at the experience from the past and how this issue has been dealt with in the Moi regime, in the Kibaki regime, in the Uhuru Kenyatta regime. You will realize that the commitment to have a long-term sustainable solution that ensures that this thing is sorted once and for all, we do not see that goodwill. We are still discussing maize importation has been banned. Yet the real problems facing the sector are not given the attention it deserves because food is classified as a staple food. You go to every part of this country, everybody is eating ugali. So you're assured of a market. Then why are we having production problems, supply chain problems, and on things that we can sort them once and for all?
Let's move to the next issue that we have for you this morning, where the Insurance Regulatory Authority, IRA, is seeking to review the current premium rates, signaling a fresh push to increase the cost of underwriting in an industry facing price undercutting and breach in capital levels. According to a report by Business Daily, IRA has opened a search for a consultant to recommend changes to the current methods used in calculating premiums paid by customers in general insurance that covers motor vehicle, personal accident, and fire and health. Now, the selected consultant will be required to provide guidance on appropriate flexi premium rating and banding for various classes of general insurance business. Now, the review comes on the back of IRA having said in October last year that 20 insurance companies, or 35% of 56 licensed businesses, were facing capital shortfall. Now, the new rates will be determined for selected classes for insurance as the regulator seeks to strike a balance between affordability of the covers and stability of underwriting companies. Just before we cross to Arnold Nkasale this morning, let's look at exactly what have been the selected performance indicators for insurers in the country. And you can actually see that the profit after tax for 2020, especially in Q3, was quite a big fall as insurance companies were trying to navigate the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. Good. Kasala, is it an imprudent measure from the regulator?
Yeah, thank you so much, Simba, for this opportunity once more. I think insurance as well as banking have faced similar challenges in the wake of the effects of COVID-19. And I think one of the biggest challenges insurance is insurance penetration. If you look at data as far as insurance penetration, consumption of insurance solutions is concerned, you'll realize that we are yet even to reach 5%. So all the insurance companies are playing with a market of less than 5%. At the same time, there's a certain element of understanding of insurance which is yet to sink in as far as the Kenyan market is concerned. Now, I think for IRA have been grappling with having insurance companies probably insurance solutions or package them with other solutions. You realize that most banks nowadays have bank assurance solutions, which essentially package credit solutions alongside insurance solutions, which along the way has to some extent assisted in penetration of insurance, absorption of insurance solutions. Unfortunately for last year, most insurance companies suffered because of insurance of long-term solutions. These are life covers and essentially health covers. You have situations whereby the rates of claims were quite something. If you look at the claims payment ratios, the ratios are quite high. If you compare the claims payable versus the claims paid, if you look at the numbers for that, you'll realize that the ratios increased in 2020 as compared to 2019. And this is particularly because of COVID. You have situations whereby either people had COVID-related complications were placing more claims than they were expected.
Yes.
And of course, with insurance, the idea is always to keep your claims to a low so that at least you can retain a yield. So when the IRA is coming in with suggestions of bringing as consultant, it simply means that the actuaries involved will need to do a new market mapping, market segmentation, and try to solutions which are affordable, but at the same time peg premiums which make business sense. That is always the juggling act. If you increase the premiums, like in the banking industry, we've actually seen a spike in premiums.
Yes.
Because of slowdown in economic activity last year, which led to claims, which meant insurance companies and their insurers had to dip more in their pockets to settle claims.
Yes.
So it's a juggling act, more of an issue whereby as a country and as an industry, the insurance industry needs to find a way of having more penetration so that you have a higher market base, so that you have a situation whereby you're spreading your risk more. If you have a higher market base, you have a higher position in terms of the underwriting which you can do, which means you can find a balance which in a premium which makes economic sense, and at the same time has a policy satisfaction index whereby you can make sense of it as far as the business is concerned. So it's more of a situation whereby COVID-19 worsened an already an industry which has very low penetration in the case.
Yes, Arnold, somebody was going to ask you as well. I mean, if you look at this response of saying that we're going to come in and calculate new costs and the pricing of the different premiums that you're actually paying out, could that be the perfect response as opposed to saying, well, for this 35% of the companies that are facing capital adequacy challenges, then we have to advise them to go into mergers and acquisitions so that we sort of say this 5% of the market that we're sharing in the country, it is quite spread across these fewer insurers in the economy.
Yeah, that is actually a solution.
Yes.
We've seen it in banks whereby banks are doing mergers essentially to increase their core capital. It could actually work as far as the insurance industry is concerned. I think we have a lot of players who are trying to come up with micro solutions, and unfortunately, with micro solutions, you have a high risk. When you have a high risk, you have a high claims position. So mergers would actually work. At the same time, the IRA may need to come up with ways of having insurance companies have a higher capital before you even begin business.
Yes.
I think that will probably enable would-be investors who want to invest in the insurance industry to come up with a certain critical mass which will enable insurance companies in the country pressures similar to COVID-19.
Pretty much. Joanne, once we come back, we do know that IRA was actually pushing to make sure that all companies meet the capital adequacy needs before the end of last year. But now we're still within the COVID-19 pandemic, Joanne, but you can actually see that even 35% of the insurance companies in the country still are unable to even pay out their premiums when they are on higher demand right now as the COVID-19 pandemic bites. Do you think, Joanne, that despite this regulation, this move from the regulator, that this condition is still going to be sustained once we come back here on a Business AM?